Welcome to College Conversations. I'm Dr. Fedor, and I help you navigate college. Part of navigating college is taking final exams and dealing with the stress that is inherently baked into final exams week. Today, I have Will Dziura, who will talk about how students can handle the stress that comes with finals week. Will is the founder of Soul Trek Coaching. Soul Trek Coaching helps grassroots leaders and organizations thrive through purposeful leadership development and organizational training. You can reach out to Will on www.soultrekcoaching.com. Well, thanks for joining me again, Will. And this is a timely topic as we have finals week coming up in another month. So I'd like to just kind of start off with this question. How can the students maybe pre-plan some of the, some of their managing the stress of finals week? I'm really curious as to how we can pre-plan this.
Well, Janice, first, thank you again. It's great to be back on College Conversations. And this is one of the great topics of how to manage life as a college student is when we think about time management during finals week. And students, freshmen right through seniors, have experienced the pressure and the crunch of finals week, and it changes each time. So having some skills in place, especially early on in terms of the planning, can really help make a difference. So what's a simple trick that students can do? There's a tool, and we'll put it on the screen here. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix. And this was a tool that's really popular in the business world, and it helps individuals stay organized and focus on what matters most. And so when you look at the Eisenhower Matrix here, you'll see that in the top left corner, there are things that are urgent and important. They need to happen now, and they're really important. If they don't happen, something bad might not be a result. In layman's term, things in the left-hand corner there, it's an emergency. They got to get that done. The goal when we think about our project management, especially with your finals work, is to try to keep yourself out of there as most as possible. There is a lot of pressure during finals, so it's going to be difficult, but your pre-planning should really try to focus on that top right-hand column. It's not urgent, you have some time, but it's important. So you can really take your time to do it right. And I encourage students to really take their time and focus on that top right corner. And when they find themselves in the top left corner in the urgent area, that's when we talk about some of that stress and overwhelm that occurs often during finals week.
You know, that it's such a great tool, the Eisenhower Matrix. I just met somebody at a conference who said that their goal is to live in quadrant 2. They just want to live doing things that are important, but not urgent. And I think the way that we make that happen is that we do things, we make our to-do list, but we do things, when they come up and as they're important, so they don't get to the urgent, like the house is on fire, type of urgency. So that's is super important and a great tool. So another question I have for you, because that's, kind of about managing tasks, but how can students manage the stress that comes along with all these deadlines? Like they've got finals week and there's all these deadlines and so forth. Can they utilize the matrix that you just showed us with that as well? Or what would you recommend to students for managing the deadlines?
Yeah, the deadlines are important. So that the Eisenhower Matrix will, if you are able to stay in that second square there and focus on what's important in a timely manner, you're going to prevent stress. I think anytime we're in that emergency area, that's when stress really starts to take hold. And it's not that stress is necessarily a bad thing. Actually, a healthy amount of stress is important to grow and to learn and to become better at managing these things. But when students find themselves moving from square 2 back to urgent and important, that's when stress is going to take over. And so what can students do? Certainly, you have to know how you respond to stress. There's some folks who respond well to it. There's others who shut down. And so it's going to be important to have some self-awareness. If you do find yourself in a position where papers due first thing in the morning and it's you're not really far along with it at 10 o'clock at night, you're going to be looking at maybe an all-nighter. But in those cases, you're really going to have to lean into what you know about yourself. How do you perform? Do you need to change your environment? All of those self-reflective tools will benefit you. But at the end of the day, there's nothing better than eating healthy, getting an adequate amount of rest, and trying to be as prepared as possible. If you do that, the stress will be manageable.
So a lot of the things that we mentioned the last time we talked about having, keeping that healthy lifestyle. So you mentioned, it's 10 o'clock at night and there's a paper due the next day. And if you're a college student, what does that mean? That means, oh, I might have to pull an all-nighter to make this happen, to meet my deadline. So what can students, and that happens. How can students be successful despite having to pull all-nighters, with these tight deadlines? Should they just go buy a case of Red Bull, or like, what should they do?
So I used to be one who enjoyed the all-nighters.
Okay.
I've come to
Not me. I just have to be honest with you. I never pulled one because I don't think I could do it, and it wouldn't be a good thing. But anyway, good for you. So
yeah,
you found it invigorating, you were motivated, and
yeah,
maybe
I
you started
grown
Red Bull.
past that point in my life now. But one of the things that you can do is if you do know that some high stress is coming, is to have, to your point, is to have first a kit. If it's coffee, certainly you don't want to overdo it on the energy drinks, but
Yeah.
having your meals, your snacks, something that you can physically have on your table while you're working. That might be some fidget spinners, anything that'll just be there to support you. There's gum chewers. So have a kit.
Yeah.
The next thing to do is to ask yourself a few reflective questions about perhaps when to recognize when you need to step away. That's a
Yeah.
very important part of working under stress and exhaustion, is that sometimes our brains just hit a wall. And as much as we try to push through, there's sometimes when our effectiveness just almost reaches zero. And
Yeah.
so having a schedule, so you have your kit, you've got your food, you've got your energy, and then you need a schedule to say, okay, I'm going to break this into chunks. Okay, maybe 2-hour work chunks and a 30-minute break. And finally, what you also need to do is take a look at what you can conceivably get done. If your working time is 10 hours,
Yeah.
what can you conceivably get done during that time, so that you're focusing on what's most important? Because I've seen it happen where students say they've worked all night, they try to accomplish way more than
Yeah.
they really can within that scheduled amount of time. And so then the project doesn't come together in a way that's satisfactory. So
And not
having,
reflective of their talents either. Like,
yeah,
this is a good
yeah,
student, but it's like, wait a minute, they could have really and should have done a lot better than that, but they tried to cram a whole semester's work into 10 hours, and it's not the same outcome.
yeah. And so the pre-planning will prevent that. But if you're in the crunch, just being realistic about what you really can do. Unfortunately, you have to lower your standards in those cases, and that's the give and the take.
Yeah.
You got all your time all semester where you didn't do the work. Well,
Right.
it's gonna sacrifice the quality at the end. It still does. You can still do great work, but just be prepared that it's going to change what normally could be better work on than what you are from what you're capable of doing.
That's a good warning signal to people that it's like you really don't want to sacrifice your quality. But that's what happens when you end up, usually, I would just say for most students, that when you rely on pulling the all-nighters, that your quality will sacrifice. Not to mention your sleep, and the next day you feel like crap. And if you have to take another exam after the paper's due, you're not going to be at 100%. So there's that snowball. But Will, you and I can talk about that snowball another time, right?
That's football is
You
a
know,
real thing,
it's a
and
real thing. Yeah. So, well, if you joined us late, please remember to hit share if you found this information useful, and subscribe to my channel so I can continue to bring you helpful videos like these, and continue to welcome Will so he can continue to talk about time management, everything that goes along with that. So, Will, always a pleasure. Looking forward to next time when we delve into some more time management issues. That's an issue for all of us as well. So again, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, and remember to keep learning.